This is Andrew Wicklund with Project Risk Consultants. We're going to go over connecting to a Primavera P6 database from Primavera Risk, then importing plan files and pushing data back and forth. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a connection to the Primavera database. There's two ways to do this. The first way is directly from Primavera P6. If you go under the Tools menu, you get a couple options at the bottom. So you've got an option for Primavera Risk Analysis. You can go ahead and click that button and it should hopefully kickstart the process and make the connection for you. The other way to connect to the Primavera database is from within Primavera Risk or Pertmaster. Under the File menu, if you go to the Primavera setting, this first section up top, there's two divider lines, three sections. The first section, the second option is Connection Wizard. So if I click that Connection Wizard, this is going to take me step by step through the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is click the Next button. So choose the version of Primavera you want to connect to. I think most users at this point have migrated to P6. So I'm going to select P6. And then you've got options for native connection or the Primavera Integration API. Now, if you've got a local copy on the machine, the native connection is what you're going to do. If you do need to go through the Primavera API, this is probably where you'll need to get IT involved to get the server settings and everything else. So there are walkthroughs in the help file and everything else. Plenty of resources, and the Primavera support staff can help you through that as well. So if you've got the local copy, go with native connection. If you need to go through the API, you're probably going to need a little bit of help on that unless you're one of the admins. There's a checkbox for auto-synchronizing the Primavera user fields. Go ahead and do that. Now we've got the database connection settings. There is a check mark for always display the import log. It's good to do. It shows you if there's anything wrong when you import a file from Primavera Risk. I'll go ahead and check mark that. And use these connection settings for all Primavera Risk users. I'll go ahead and check mark that as well. Click Next. And then I'm going to click on Finish. So now that we've established a connection to the database, we can import a file into Primavera Risk one of two ways. Once again, you can either go through Primavera P6. I'm going to kickstart this one from within Primavera Risk. So this first option, Open Primavera Project, that's to open a project directly from the database. If you look down here at Open Primavera XER, if you're using backup files, you're going to use that option. I'm just going through my configuration settings now. And then it gives me a login to Primavera. So this is the same login that you would use if you were logging directly into P6. When you log in, you're going to get the exact same data that you would have gotten when you were in P6. So if you only have access to certain files, you'll only see those files here. You're seeing the same information. Now when you're importing from P6 and you kickstart an import process, it's going to import all open files within Primavera. So if you've got 3 projects open, it's going to import all of those into Primavera Risk. When you're starting the analysis from Primavera Risk, you're going to drill down and you're going to find the project that you're looking for. And say, for example, if I want to bring in these 2 files, I have to check mark both of them. If there's any links between the projects, it's going to bring in cross-project links as well. So I'm going to bring in Project 1 and Project 2, Highway North and South. These are sample files within Primavera P6. And I'm clicking OK. So this is the main import screen. The first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that the planning unit is in line with your Primavera database. So if you have a 10-hour planning unit or an 8-hour planning unit or whatever your planning unit is in Primavera P6, you want to make sure that that's the same. Now if you don't know what your planning unit is in P6 or you'd like to bring it in hours, that'll normally take care of a lot of the confusion. So I'm going to set mine to hours. There's a check mark box for import the WBS structure. We're going to bring in the WBS structure. Now if you look at the file usually by activity codes, you can always resort by activity codes, but you can go ahead and bring it in by WBS structure now. And then if you have a workspace set up that's customized, you can select that here. The default workspaces are pretty good. We're going to leave the Primavera workspace for now. The second tab, Tasks, this is if you only going to be used if you have any risk information in Primavera P6. So a lot of what the Primavera Risk Tool or the Pertmaster Risk Tool does is help you gather your risk inputs. So in the future, it's advisable that you start using that functionality to load risk quicker, smarter, better. If you do have risk that you're bringing in or you're doing an audit of someone else's data, you can check mark this and you can go through and map the minimum, the likely, the maximum duration to user-defined fields. You're going to do the same thing here for alternative duration distribution, duration correlation. Most of that information users would never have. The 3-point estimates or the distribution would be the one thing that is sometimes put into P6. You're very rarely going to get the alternative duration distribution or correlation. If it is in there though, you can map it. The next tab is probabilistic. This is for if you put risk events directly into P6. So if you had a column for a probability of occurrence, a risk may or may not happen, it's 50% chance we have a delay, and you've put that in the schedule, you would map that column with the 50% to that field. If you set up probabilistic branching in P6, you can map that in as well. I've never seen anyone map probabilistic branching in P6. It would normally be something that if someone were going to do it, it would be done in a risk tool like Primavera Risk. So I would doubt that someone would see that, but you do have the ability to push that data from Primavera Risk to P6 and then back again. So if you had pushed that data originally from Primavera Risk and then back, some of these fields maybe are being held in Primavera Risk and Primavera P6. The next tab is resources and costs. So the first option is do not import any resources or costs. The next is import roles, resources, assignments, and activity expense costs. And then you've got one for import costs, summarizes labor, non-labor, materials expenses is below. And then you can create the distributions for each, duration distribution dependent, duration independent. I'm going to import all my resources now. The next tab we're going to go into is activity codes. Now there was a mapping section, so originally up front the users could have set the mapping so that the same activity codes would come over each time, the same user-defined fields. If you do not select a user-defined field or an activity code in these two sections, and both sections are set up the same way, you've got a bank of activity codes on the left. I can move them right. Those are going to come into the Pertmaster plan file. When you bring a Pertmaster or Primavera Risk file in, it disconnects from the database afterwards, and then it's a flat file, so it saves it. It's like exporting it and importing it into another product completely, so it disconnects from the database. So if you don't bring in the activity codes you need to do your analysis, you'll have to reconnect to the database, bring those over, and start again. So activity codes, user-defined fields, you want to make sure you map those up front. Once you have the mapping how you want it, I'm going to click OK. Now go ahead and save this file. I'll save that to my desktop. And then it should give me a pop-up to view the log file because of the setting I set earlier. So I'm not going to view that right now. If I wanted to push data back to Primavera P6 from Primavera Risk, I would go to this Update Primavera Project. So once again, File menu, Primavera, Update Primavera Project. Click on that. And this is a pretty simple one to use. what you're going to do is look for the field that you want to bring in. So say for example my risk output fields. I can't get that in Primavera P6. I'm going to go ahead and map that to the field I want it to be in Primavera. I just put Primavera cost 2. That's not where I want it to go, but that gives you an idea. Basically, you've got a user-defined field or a field in Pertmaster, and you got a user-defined field or in Primavera that you're going to push that to. You can only push data to a user-defined field. If you want to make live data from Primavera Risk to Primavera P6, you'll have to do a push to a user-defined field in Primavera Risk, and then you'll have to do a global update. So if I wanted to do a probability level schedule with probability 80 durations, I could make a P80 schedule by pushing the P80 durations to a Primavera field called P80 durations. Then I would do a global edit in Primavera, and then I can make that data live to the remaining duration field. So it does that on purpose because it doesn't want users to corrupt their database or corrupt their data. You can only do so much damage when you're pushing data to user-defined fields, whereas if you were to overwrite important live fields, that would be an issue. So you've got a checkbox to apply new settings to all plans. As soon as I click the Update Now button, it's going to create that connection. It's going to push that data back to P6. I can save and load my settings. So that's basically, you've got the data in now, and you're ready to actually sanitize the data and move forward with the analysis.